Welcome everyone to the female bodybuilding channel, behind the secret behind the female muscle. And first of all, Zimmermann, are you happy with the amount of DMs and comments and the crazy views after this short time?
Oh, I didn't expect that, to be honest. I really didn't expect that much good feedback on that we do so much good education for the people that they, yeah, are really happy that we created something what was never happened before. So, especially for the female bodybuilding world. Yeah.
The reason why we only have you today is because this is a topic that we don't need more people to talk about because it's very important. So we don't want so much back and forth to this. And since you are known as like a, what can we say, a peaking expert, and you have shown a good ability to peak the girls, we wanted to talk a little bit about diuretics. So, and this is a very I wouldn't say dangerous topic, but this is important that they know what is diuretic. So we want to go into 2 episodes, guys, where we go very slow and take notes at home, so people can know what it's about. So Zimmermann, what are diuretics? Where were they really from originally, and what were they used for in the beginning?
So they were not created for bodybuilding. So they are medicine, of course, and mainly to help eliminate excessive water in situations where it gets dangerous for the patient. For example, fluid retention is a health problem, so it's more created for health problems, of course, than a cosmetic issue. What we have in bodybuilding.
Around what time did it start to come into practice? Do you know?
Yeah, it's really, yeah, really good. I think there's a really good research on it, but in the bodybuilding world, it's just everybody knows it is used, but nobody knows really how to use it.
So if you go back to that, then when did female athletes, you think, started using diuretics? When you see physiques probably change a little bit, and is there around the time they were started implementing diuretics at the top level for females?
When I talk to like these old school guys, these even were used in the 80s, 90s already. So it's like 50, 60 years already in the game, the same as testosterone and all this other stuff. It were
So,
used all the time, yeah.
so the chances are that girls were using diuretics.
Are pretty high.
Whatever man does, a female soon does, correct? Right after or before, but at the same time, correct? Especially in bodybuilding.
On average, women have a like smaller body size and a lower proportion or total amount of body water than men. So I would say given amount of fluid loss can represent a larger hit to total body water, you know. So in addition, the female hormone variation can influence and the aldosterone related regulation and fluid retention is much more seen in women than men. We all know this when the average women say, "Oh, I've swollen ankles when it's getting hot in summer," and so on. So yeah, in other words, we are all taking like a drug developed for a fluid overloaded patient and applying it to a competitor who is already lean, depleted, very glycogen sensitive, sleep deprived, dehydrated. And that is
One thing not everyone knows: what does glycogen depleted mean?
this is a state where a lot of competitors coming from when you're going into a show and you're very depleted and you're ready to carb up, like everybody says, then it's time for the body that it's very responsive to carbohydrates and the body resorbs the carbs much better, and that means glycogen sensitive in this
Okay.
way.
So what are the different classes of diuretics that's out there that people use, that you see people use in female figure physique, well, more in physique and women's bodybuilding, but there's many I've seen in figure, even in bikini they're using it, and classes like that. But what are the main difference, and what kind of diuretics is out there that people are actually are using? And go slow because this is for people to know.
I think the main difference are the classes, that there are loop diuretics, there are thiazide-like
So a
diuretics.
loop diuretic, if we can go into that, what does that mean?
This is, for example, the more aggressive called diuretics like Lasix, Bumex, furosemide, for example. Fast and strong sodium and water loss, and a high risk of depletion, I would
So
say.
loop diuretics is more aggressive and it's
Yes.
something that needs to be a lot more knowledgeable if a person is going to use it.
I wouldn't say this. I would
Okay.
rather say that it's just not needed, and you cannot like it's not so predictable as thiazide like diuretics or potassium sparing diuretics because it's acting very fast, and once you're over the top you cannot get it back. Once you're going flat, there's no way back.
So,
Say
so
it
this
like
is
this.
loop diuretic. And what were you calling, what were they called?
This is the class. The class is loop diuretic, and examples for this would be Bumex or Lasix, furosemide.
This is something that you don't see so much often
Oh
anymore.
yeah, I see this often. This is used very often, especially when you get plans like, what did you do in the past? It's mainly like, oh, half a Lasix, a whole Lasix, and yeah, it's strong. It's just a strong water and sodium loss
Okay.
and a high risk of getting flat, much higher than the
So
other ones
so
we
what are the other ones? Loop diuretic, what's the next one?
are a combination product like diazide
Yes,
or
thiazide's very well known, yes.
moderatic or whatever it's called. So it's a combination of triamterene and hydrochlorothiazide.
All the
So
girls they ask me when I go to show, AJ, do you have an extra
do you have it?
thiazide with you? I can't get
Because
it.
nobody gets it. Either they have only hydrochlorothiazide or they have this loop diuretics.
So why
That's
is
very.
thiazide so? Because it's a prescription from the pharmacy and the steroid dealers don't sell it, correct?
I don't really know. Yeah, I think so. Because for heart patients or patients who have problems with water, they always got these fast acting things because you need to get rid of that water very fast, and you don't need a like, yeah, a
Okay.
combi product. It's smart. Diazide is often used because it's like more controlled because it combines these two products, triamterene and hydrochlorothiazide, and you're combining a potassium-sparing diuretic with a thiazide-driven natriuretic effect. So the HCTZ, the hydrochlorothiazide, is still the main engine, while triamterene mainly reduces the potassium wasting that hydrochlorothiazide can cause. That does not make the look like easier to time, but it simply means the electrolyte profile is different. So you have more of control as it's potassium sparing. Once you get flat, you can easily manage it with more fluids or
if
sodium or
if
whatever.
if you have an eye for it, because I
Yeah.
see a lot of coaches they use it, and then I come to the hotel room, and then they tell me she's this and I'm like, bro, she's not even what yours. So there's a lot of coaches using it, they don't even know what they're looking at, correct?
Yeah, because also they underestimate the effect that it the peak hits when they're on stage or even later. Tryptophan peaks around like 3 hours or so. And then they imagine they can like back time the capsule so the athlete will peak on stage.
I saw
So
this a lot with Regan Grimes before he was peaking in
yeah,
prejudging, and then he just
exactly.
fade all the way in for finals until
And
he
you can
disappeared on
see
stage.
with every round of posing, they're
It's
getting
worse and
softer and
worse.
softer. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
So
not saying it's because of that. I'm just saying some athletes they peak and then they just fade the more the show goes
yeah,
on, and then just end up nothing at the end. Eh?
we all want a stable look by
Mhm.
prejudging because there's where the results are already set. But the drug may be still ramping up. Why are they trying to fill out? And the second half of the effect can continue after the athlete is on stage. So she or he ends up looking completely different like 2 or 4 hours later, not because everything has suddenly changed, just because the diuretic has worked. The drug
So
curve was still unfolding in prejudging and still ramped up.
So that was two classes, and for one thing, for the females, usually they don't even judge the finals 90% of the time. Maybe at the Olympia they probably judge the top three again, and there's no Arnold for girls, so they don't really judge the finals in 90% of the show. And prejudging in physique, figure, and women's bodybuilding, it's not like bikini. It goes like this. They don't even really judge. So if you fade, or in a pro qualifier for the girls, if you fade in the beginning, there's no turning back. You can't save it for later. You're done.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And then the most problem here is just that you got worse stage shots than even in the prejudging, for example. Yes.
I think a lot of the reasons why people are using different things also because they can't get a hold of something else. I see a lot of girls ask, "Do you got this? Do you got this?" It's almost like they just take what they can get sometimes when it comes to diuretics.
And this is mostly furosemide, Lasix, these loop diuretics, these strong diuretics, where you cannot say anymore, like when you're cramping, for example, which is a very, very common
Very
thing,
common.
very common. If you take diazide, you know, most of the time, okay, it's sodium, or yeah, it can be easily fixed by sodium. If you're taking like Lasix, what flushes out everything,
One second.
sodium
So if you're cramping because you're using, what was it again?
diazide,
Then you can add in sodium.
yes.
Where will you get sodium from? Like, for instance, what? For people to know.
You always should have sodium with you, so the muscle
Yeah, but
stays
where do you
full.
get sodium? Like, in what?
Like pure salt, like just 1 or 2
That's what
grams
I
of
mean.
salt
So,
with a
salt.
zip of water,
Yes.
Gatorade, whatever, and then it really fast gets better. And if you use Lasix, which flushes out like potassium and sodium, you don't know really what to do because yeah, you don't know if it's potassium related cramping now or is it sodium related cramping, and then you may be taking potassium, but your potassium levels are already very high. Potassium is very, very important for the heart, and that's where people are getting like passed out or fade away or
So,
whatever.
what is the reason? We can go into that, but why does sodium and potassium, because that's probably a little bit into that, why is it so important then with potassium and sodium? Why does it matter that much?
Sodium and potassium are the major electrolytes that
Hmm.
help to determine fluid distribution, muscle contraction, and also this cardiac rhythm for your heart. So sodium is
That's
mainly
what
the
we see when people say, don't take diuretics, you can die of a heart attack. We've
this
seen
is
a
most
couple of instances, sadly, backstage at shows. We had one woman, may she rest in peace, she died backstage. We have had a couple of other girls die, and men, obviously, because of this. And what's the reason for that when it goes that extreme? What's the issue then?
This is potassium related. So, like I said, sodium is mainly muscle contraction, and sodium is mainly the major extracellular location, and potassium is mainly the major intracellular location. So the body spends enormous energy to keeping that separation intact because that gradient is essential for muscle and nerve function. So visually, this matters because bodybuilder talk as if there's one bad pool of water under the skin that can simply be removed while everything else stays perfect. So that's not how the system works. So diuretics do not selectively put away the subcutaneous water all of a sudden. They change the whole fluid and electrolyte environment. So if sodium falls too far, the plasma volume can fall with it. And if potassium falls too far, the contraction quality suffers and also arrhythmia risk raises up. So if potassium rises too far, that's to your question, back to your question, then the electrical conduction of the heart can become unstable in the opposite direction. And that is the point where people can die from.
Uh, I believe as an amateur, for amateur girls out there, usually the girls who win are usually the best girls when it comes to shape, aesthetics, balance, And also, they don't need to be extreme condition to win pro cards. It's really the best body kind of wins because there's such a big difference with the good and the bad girls in the pro qualifier. So, when it comes to, I don't think amateur really need diuretics, but when to use diuretic or not for pro. If you're pro, and when should someone use, or well, you can't recommend when to, but what would be some of the cons when to use it and when to stay away from it?
Mm, yeah, when
So
you're
when
just
to use
holding,
it first? When would it be a idea to implement it?
if your athlete is watery. So this is kind
Okay.
of a
And it's
tricky
not fat
question. This is
though,
a
correct?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe
Yeah, you
we
have to
had
know
this,
the
we
difference
haven't
between water and fat.
discussed this. If the athlete is not in really, really great shape, diuretics make the look always worse. Always. And from what I've heard and seen, it's always the ones who use the lowest amount, which were like just pulled out that extra water and not overdone.
So that would be
These
the
were on
loop
point.
diuretic then, correct? Or just a little bit of it.
No, I wouldn't say
No?
that. No, I would say diazide. The only thing you really need, if you need a diuretic, is diazide, because
Okay.
everything else is easier to get maybe, and probably what you also already said. Even the pros are really struggling with getting real diazide, and I'm talking about the mixed product and not like either trimethylene or hydrochlorothiazide. So when to use it? Yeah, when should it doesn't create conditioning. They don't replace fat loss. You don't suddenly reveal any glute ties, shredded glutes by using it. Or at the absolute best, they can like significantly, not significantly, slightly refine an already very, very good look. An athlete who's already
But if
ready. Yeah, often if an athlete says, "Oh, I cannot get dry, I cannot get this, create this stage look," it's because they're not lean enough.
or
It's
have
not,
enough muscle.
or haven't, yeah, of course. And if they, yeah, they are just like sticks in the end. Even when they are peeled, there's no muscle quality. We talked about it with Hafiz. The first diet you're doing, you will never achieve this grainy, striated look. You can become very good, but not this hard, crazy women's physique look. No.
So when to not use diuretics is usually you're saying if you know this is not water, this is pure fat, there's no point of using it. Is that what you're saying?
I would say if the athlete is coming out of a state from a very high amount of cardio, weeks of depletion, already maybe underhydrated, whatever, has a chaotic sodium intake, not a stable sodium intake. This is what a lot of athletes underestimate. Already cramping maybe without taking anything, already like dizzy and not chilled. Like this peak week, you really should go into it, and the first day of the peak week should be already a relaxed environment. And if you're already stressed there, then a female
So
specific context here, maybe like many female divisions are judged on a very like the I want to say something about the judging here, like enough sharpness to look conditioned, but also enough roundness to look like still alive.
like
Yeah?
Lavinia
Not this,
Barros.
no, yeah, but not like stringy and like
No,
tired.
round and
Yeah,
full
round. We
and
still
great
want some
shape,
full
yeah.
muscles, right? Yeah, enough intracellular support to look full without this blurry look. That
So
means
this
small.
means to use the diuretics in some cases, it will mean that the athlete is in good shape 2 weeks out and is controlled into the peak week, stress-free, sleeping. The body fat has been low for a little while, but she's not doing an hour of cardio. She's sleeping a little bit and stress-free. So to do this, it means that coaches really need to have, like you, 3, 4 check-ins peak on prep. You're doing 3, 4 peak. I even saw with Lucia, you have almost every day on prep. So on prep,
Because
the coach and the athlete need constant feedback, especially the last 6 weeks. Correct?
yeah, especially if you don't know a body, and
Yeah.
if you maybe can see already that this might be tricky with with some athlete, and you rather stay safe and also say, okay, no changes, instead of having a surprise like 5 days apart when you're checking in, or yeah, like the last 10 days, I like to just checking in every day because reacting emotionally because a client wakes up very watery 3 days out. Oh, we need to start diuretic. Maybe get enough sleep in, don't do cardio today, maybe more carbs. She wakes up the next day, dropped 3 pounds. And then you maybe start to think about diuretics, like maximum 3 days out. I would rather say 2 days out, and then it's maybe enough already, you know? So, or the day before the show, you wake up slightly watery, you use a quarter tap of whatever, I don't know, maybe it's a loop diuretic, maybe it's not. And then you look like 3 or 4 hours later after some meals and you already wake up flat, not already, you always wake up flat. So yeah, then try a quarter tap or whatever, wait a couple hours and then look at the situation, and then it's maybe enough. And the more you take from then, it's only get worse. It's only get your look get worse and worse and worse. And if you already kind of tend to this flat look the day before the show, there's really no point. And even with the safer diuretics or the more controlled ones, you wake up flat the next day. And if our divisions are already very, very early in the day.
Yes, and fast and early, quick to the point. The judging is, it's like boom, and it's gone.
Yeah.
That's not even a third call out. It's horrendous. Can you imagine, Zimmermann? Girls are prepping 18 to 20 to 16 weeks with no
It's hard,
prize
right?
money, and then they don't even get more than a 2 minute call out.
2 minutes is long. Look at the amateurs. They are 15 seconds on stage, right? So
So girls, I hope you took a lot of information in this one. This was very important one, but I feel there's probably a lot of more questions about this. So I think we're gonna do a part 2. So when you see this one, you reach out to either Zimmermann's Instagram, AJ Kaler Roberts' Instagram, or the Female Bodybuilding Instagram. We'll also put like a questionnaire as soon as this episode is finished, so people can see, and then they can ask us more follow-up questions, and we will bring it up for part 2, because Zimmermann, this is a very important topic, correct?
important, and it's such a spectrum. You go from here to there, and this is a never-ending story because you can go so much into detail, which is not necessarily, but people should understand what they are taking and what is happening in their body
Yeah.
with all this fluid shifts and electrolyte imbalances and why they feel like they feel. Yeah, the better the prep normally, the less diuretics you need in the end. Maybe we
So
can say
if you're gonna give, you would say don't use it. If you're on and you've done what you can, if you don't really know what you're doing with this, you would stay away, correct?
if the look is on point, I wouldn't. I no, I
Yeah.
would increase sodium. What? No, but that's too much secrets
Don't
released.
tell the yes. So we will keep it at that. This episode will be out. We'll see when it's out. By that time, hopefully, you're close to going to New York Pro, where you are prepping Julia Glaskikova. So little questions about her. How much is she at right now? This will be obviously a little bit before the show, but compared to last show, we can put in some pictures in this for people to see. How much is she up compared to her Olympia look?
I just made a post like this day. She's up 18 pounds from her. This is 8 kg,
Yes.
something like
In the
18
same condition.
pounds. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, we are 3.5 weeks out. So let me check. You want to know what she's doing and eating right now, right?
Yes.
So she has still 60 gram she has 50 gram carbs pre-workout. She has 30 gram intra-workout. She has still 50 gram post-workout, and over the day 50, another 50, 150. So yeah, like let's say 300 grams of carbs, still 3 whole eggs, 15-gram almond butter here and there. So plenty of fats. 35 minutes of cardio daily. We just increased that last week, I think.
That's not
We
so
worked on,
much. 35. That's
no,
no.
she's also like somebody who's, and this is our first prep, who's getting flat very easy. And yeah, with her, for example, I also do every 2 days we checking in. And she can look completely different. She can lose like 5 pounds in 2 days, and then you just need to make a refeed because she will be invincible on stage otherwise.
Yeah, that's going to be good. And for guys and girls watching, you are very lucky that you are tuning in to the Female Bodybuilding Channel's #1 podcast right now, because you will go to New York and Pittsburgh. So we will not only will we have a wrap up, we will have exclusive backstage posing, hotel room, see how the look changes for New York, Pittsburgh, double episode, correct?
Yes, 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 of course. I try to film as much as possible. So yeah, this can be very interesting when it comes to peaking, like you said, because there's where the real things happen. Because Julia's one who's changing incredibly fast.
And Zimmermann, as I've been in the industry for I don't even know how long now, and the girls and the men who are pros, they already know how to eat, how to train, kind of how to supplement. That's up and down, but it's that peak week, peaking. You need a coach to really, because that's where the value, because you are low on energy, you don't know what's going on, and it's hard to address yourself. The last week, you're stressing, you don't. That's where you need that's where the coach comes in as the guy, because off season, come on, girl. Of course they know what to do, but they peak, bro. They peak week, so they become the king of peaks. That's the best compliment any coach can get, and we will see what happens in 2026, Zimmermann. But so far, it's been doing great with the peaking, but it's the peak that really defines how good a coach is. Because, hello, do you think Phil Heath needs Henny Rambod to tell him how to train? Hell no. It's the peak, yeah.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think so. I
No, I
think
don't. You think Jay
that means a
Cutler
lot.
do you think Ronnie Coleman needed Chad to tell him how to lift up some dumbbells? Oh hell
No,
no.
I just read an article where they said they don't even measure their fucking meat and
No,
everything.
no.
They just straight. But of course, if you're 350 pounds, it maybe doesn't matter if you're eating like 200 or 250 grams of chicken. So especially in off season. But as you see, all the open bodybuilders are really like they can mess up their peak like crazy.
Yeah.
They're looking like wild 2 weeks out, and then they step on stage, and you say like, is he off?
Mm.
Like, did
Yeah.
he stop training or what?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Okay, guys and girls, hopefully girls, leave comments on our Instagrams and get in a part 2. And Zimmerman, we are out.
Thank you, AJ.